Welcome back to Let's Not Sugarcoat It. Season 3 is here and we're excited to dive into the core of communication, relationships, and leadership.
We're your hosts, Bella and Lee, a husband and wife duo with a successful business helping couples and organizations get it together to play a bigger game and elevate their relationships and performance.
We believe in keeping it real, so each week we'll bring you incredible guests, entrepreneurs sharing their authentic experiences, along with episodes featuring just the two of us tackling the tough topics.
So, if you're ready to enhance your connections and sharpen your leadership skills, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to another episode of Let's Not Sugarcoat It. Today we have Amber Romaniuk in the house. She is an emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert who helps high-achieving women create a level of body confidence, intuition, and optimal health through powerful mindset healing, self-care, and overcoming self-sabotage with food. She does this through addressing the key negative thought patterns and limiting beliefs that keep women stuck in the same behaviors for years and decades that they haven't been able to break. Amber overcame her own emotional eating after gaining and losing more than 1,000 pounds and spending over $50,000 on binge food and spending 5 years balancing her hormones and digestion. She also dismantled her deep limiting beliefs and behaviors, keeping her stuck in the same looping patterns. Now she helps others achieve body freedom so they have the confidence and health to create amazing lives. She is also the host of the Not Sugarcoating It podcast. So welcome to Let's Not Sugarcoat It, Amber.
Thank you guys for having me. Yeah, I'm so pumped that we have the names of our podcasts are very, very good. They're my favorite.
Yeah, I think there's a need out there in this world to not sugarcoat things and just say it how it is, because that's when we get to the bottom of things. That's when we acknowledge the things that are actually holding us, our limiting beliefs and all that kind of stuff. Because, we always want to pat someone on the back and good job, but they're not doing a good job.
Yeah.
So welcome to the show. And so tell us a little bit about your journey, because 1,000 pounds and $50,000, that is quite the journey. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about your backstory, and then we'll dive into tools and all that kind of jazz.
So when you're in a severe food addiction and you're deeply fighting with food in your body, it's actually quite easy to gain and lose 1,000 pounds in 5 years and spend, a very large amount of money on quick fixes, diets, personal trainers that I couldn't afford, binge eating 6 nights a week and going to the organic store and justifying why it was a better choice because it's the organic store, spending $60 to $80 a night, it accumulates really fast. And before that blew up in my face, it was, we all have things that happen to us that kind of shape our relationship with ourselves and food. And for me, a couple of those key experiences, first thing when I was 5, it was my first day taking the school bus, and I was the only child, or I am the only child. And I get on the bus and the older boys call me fat and ugly, and then the whole bus is making fun of me. And that was a very traumatic moment for me that I stored deep in my nervous system and really took that identity on for the next 20 years of my life. Grew up feeling very insecure. My mom was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis before I was born. And so I think a huge way of her compensating in our relationship was with food. I think there's a lot of things that she couldn't cope with and used food herself. And just, it was a way that we could bond and create connection. And then of course, you start getting conditioned by Hollywood and the media in my teens, and like all the body image dysmorphia and all the fake editing and photoshopping that they don't tell you about. And then you compare yourself and think there's something wrong with you. So they create the problem, they create the false solution, which is go on a diet, try this diet. This will fix everything. Once you lose weight, you'll finally be happy. That is the lie that they deeply ingrain into our subconscious. And so that chronic dieting through my teens, and then the binge eating, the food addiction really hit hard in my early 20s. I had my first real breakup. I was so hurt I could barely eat, lost weight really fast, thought that would fix everything. It obviously didn't. It didn't fix anything. And then it was kind of just this like all or nothing switch happened. And all of a sudden I found myself deep in binge eating to where it was like I had restricted for quite a while. And then all of a sudden I was eating some sugar and eating this and that. And then it triggered this like, well, screw it, I've messed up. I might as well just go and eat whatever I want, and created this first full blown binge where I like ate half an ice cream cake and then ate fast food and ate until I was so full I was sick. And then that triggered the panic the next day of, oh my God, I've messed up. I've gained weight. I need to go to the gym and compensate, right? And burn as many calories as I can and skip breakfast and lunch. And that birthed the all or nothing binge mentality for me, to where I was either completely losing control with food until I was so full I was sick, or I was trying to gain control or unconsciously punish myself with diets and restriction. And I gained 80 pounds in 4 months in that behavior. And then I was the heaviest that I had ever been. I binged and purged for 6 months thinking that that would help prevent weight gain. But obviously, that behavior is extremely destructive on every part of your being. And stopped the purging, realizing I'm going to probably cut my life short if I keep up that behavior. And then it was a couple years into it that I really started to realize I have a problem. Like, I'm binge eating, I'm obsessing and asphyxiating over food. I hate my body, like all these epiphanies. And I had this low point moment where I had thrown the food away in the garbage can, and I was just laying on the couch, just absolutely distraught. Like, why is this my life? Why is this happening to me? I have no idea what's going on or how to deal with it. And that particular night, I'd always throw the food in the garbage because then I wouldn't go and eat it. And that night, though, it was kind of this justification of, if it's the last time you're going to do this, you might as well go eat the rest of the food. And so I went into the kitchen, grabbed the cookies out of the garbage, ate them, threw them in that dumpster in the back alley, went out and grabbed them and ate them out of the back alley dumpster. And then I was just like, okay, I need to finally admit to myself that this is a serious problem. Because I think sometimes when you get into addiction or some kind of self-sabotaging behavior, this denial kicks in that it's not a big deal because it's your comfort zone and your way of coping. And obviously, even if we're in some form of coping that's unhealthy, because it's familiar and comfortable, we stay in it and we kind of convince ourselves that it's not a big deal. But those low point moments really crush that denial. And I finally was able to admit to myself that this is a big deal. This is having a significant negative impact on every area of my life. And I need to figure out how to deal with it, because I knew nothing that I know now about health. I went to college to be like a TV host, like not nothing that I know. I knew nothing about health or nutrition or anything. And so that catapulted me onto the healing journey, which took a few years, but it helped me fully break free and heal my relationship with food and my body. And I'm grateful for every moment of it, because it's shaped me into the person I am to this day, and also helped me really recognize what my true purpose was, which is helping women eradicate these behaviors. So that's kind of the long and short of it. But it was a very, very dark time that turned into a very empowering experience for me.
Yeah. I can totally relate to your story, because just like you, in childhood, when we immigrated to Canada, went to school, and there was 3 Isabellas, and one was tall, one skinny, and they labeled me as fat. And since then, just triggered this thing within me. And it's like, well, I'm not fat and I'll never be fat. And then my dad struggled with his weight all his life. And yeah, I ended up becoming bulimic, and I was that for almost 15 years until I needed to do something, because I was hiding. And you go and you do the binge eating at restaurants, and then you kind of look around, be like, okay, I'll be right back, and I'm gonna go purge. And then just having that feeling is like, okay, the food was giving me a sense of pleasure and that dopamine, but then that guilt kicked in, and then I would go and purge, and then I ended up getting help. I went to a psychologist, and that and I broke the pattern. However, it is a lifelong, I believe, struggle for some people. For me, I haven't purged in a very long time. However, my father's death 2.5 years ago, he died of a heart attack, but it had to do with his obesity and whatnot. So for the last 2 years, I have been triggered and I have been struggling, because I feel like what you said is I haven't dealt with that trauma yet. So it has been, and so then I project that not only on myself. You hate it when I say, oh my God, I'm so fat. Oh my gosh, I look a certain way. I hate my body. I hate this. And then I project that onto my family. And we have 2 girls, 13, and they're growing and their bodies are changing. My language around that is not it's supportive for the girls, but then I micromanage the food. There's a fixation on how much portion, what did it eat, da, 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 right? And it's becoming this family issue, which I know I recognize I need to go and deal with that, because now I'm projecting my own emotions onto my family. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I'm sorry about your loss. And I think it's all in the divine timing. Your awareness is everything. And then chipping away at it in a way that feels good for you. And I think when things come up again, it's just our opportunity to celebrate how far we've come, and then to just lovingly observe what still needs our love and attention for healing. Because when we give it that, like our triggers, our teachers, the emotions and the projection and the parts of self-love for you to still build are your teachers. And they're just showing you where, to give attention to help with your healing. And I think that's one of the biggest messages for anyone that's dealing with this. Is I think we can fully heal it, we can overcome it, but it takes time, and there's many layers to it. So you've got to be patient on your journey. And if another part comes up and you thought you were done with it, again, can you get curious and be compassionate rather than really hard on yourself, and be willing to then go and pick away at it one step at a time. I think there's so many layers to these behaviors that people don't realize.
Yeah.
There's the emotional, mental, but there's the physical imbalances that fuel the urge to self-sabotage. There's the nervous system dysregulation. There's the energetic pieces. There's the neurotransmitter, chemical imbalances. There's the pathway wiring in the brain. So it's not just one thing. It's such a multifaceted behavior. And life is happening while we're trying to deal with it, right?
And
So,
perimenopause as well. Although, hormonally, I just had my blood work done and everything is normal. But
well,
yet
is
I'm
it
not
though?
feeling normal, right? So, I mean,
Is it though? I always challenge
right?
people. If you get
Yeah.
your labs back and you're in perimenopause and you're told everything is normal, I highly encourage you to get a second opinion.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, is like, okay, so I went to my doctor, got my blood work done, but then I'm working with a naturopathic doctor who then takes the results and say, okay, these may be in the normal range for majority, but are they really? Like, they are so on an individual basis. Like, I was anemic for years and I didn't get my blood work, and then it started getting worse and worse and worse until I couldn't get out of bed without going, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted, got blood work done. And they're like, oh, you're anemic. You were tolerating it quite well. Like, it's just, they'll give you a pill to get your energy back, or a pill to bring your energy down. It's always this pill without actually digging to the root cause. So I love what you do, because it's such a struggle for women. With social media and perimenopause, it's just the expectations, like you were saying, on to look a certain way. Been in that place where you put on a dress, your closet is full, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have nothing to wear. Right? Well, he's like, what are you talking about? You look beautiful. But that mental strain of all what is coming at us all the time is
Yeah.
exhausting. So how do you go about helping women get through the challenges? Because like you said before, it's not just, oh, I want to lose weight, because there's the hormones, there's traumas, because it's quite a complex issue.
Yeah. So the first thing really is around evaluating their relationship with food and their self-worth, because truly what's at the root is unworthiness. There's some level of unworthiness, there's some level of trauma, inner child wounding that does need to be addressed. And we have to address that mindfully and slowly at a pace that feels good for each woman and their nervous system. Because here's the thing. When you start this journey, even when you're midway or 3/4 of the way through, or you're working on healing something else, there's certain pathways and beliefs in your mind and in your brain that have wired you to speak the way you are to yourself, to treat the way you are right now. And when we think about changing that, that feels uncomfortable. And the amygdala, which is the fight or flight stress center of the brain that scans for threat 24/7, senses discomfort as a threat. So the amygdala is going to kind of tell you, stay with what you're doing, stay in these comfort zones. This is safe and familiar. That's why when we first start catching negative self-talk and saying and complimenting ourselves or saying, I like myself or I love myself, I am worthy, you feel like a fraud. You're like, that doesn't feel real at all. And a part of it is because it's uncomfortable and unfamiliar to what you've been doing. And it's going to actually take time to reprogram your subconscious mind that you are these things because you're born fully worthy. You get nothing but unconditional love, or ideally you should as a baby. But then we're conditioned and go through these experiences to make us think otherwise. And so now it's our job, if you're a woman, to remother yourself, if you're a man, to refather or like for us adults to reparent ourselves. That is extremely important, and to learn how to have our own back, and to start with repetitively reprogramming our subconscious mind with things like affirmations, catching negative self-talk, starting to apologize to and forgive ourselves, and starting to speak more kindly to ourselves. And as you do it, it becomes unfamiliar to a little familiar to more familiar to your natural state of being, to where even if you catch yourself in a moment of negative self-talk, you're like, where is this coming from? Oh, maybe there's a little more to shift here, but it becomes so much more minuscule. And as you build that and you take the steps, all the steps on these journey accumulate to help you fill this void, this lack of self-love that you're trying to fill with food or weight loss or whatever it is. And as you build that worth, the external no longer influences you. I am not influenced by the external world. I could give two craps about what the trends are, what this is, I don't care, because the most important thing is I love myself and I feel worthy, and no one outside of me is going to dictate how I need to look in all of that. So I think that's why building your worth is so powerful, because it makes you feel unstoppable and it makes you feel so detached from needing to be or act a certain way to be loved and approved of, because you have that for yourself and no one can shake or take that from you. So I think that's the first most important piece, because you become unshakable to the world and all the dynamics. I think along with that, we've got to then heal your relationship with food. And so whether you're a binge eater, you're in bulimia, you are emotionally eating, you're a full-blown food addiction, which is like you're thinking about food nonstop, whether you're planning your next diet or you're trying to control the amount of food you're eating, or you're planning your next binge, it doesn't matter where you are on that spectrum. We've got to deal with your triggers first of all. Emotional or binge eating will keep coming back if we don't understand everything that's triggering us. So most people will have dozens and dozens of different triggers. And these triggers, I really call them multidimensional. There's physical, emotional eating triggers, things like fatigue as an example. Fatigue increases your hunger signal. It's called ghrelin. It makes you more hungry when you're tired. And we have a dulled leptin signal, and leptin makes us feel full. So when you're constantly fatigued, which is usually caused from high cortisol, a thyroid issue, low progesterone, dysregulated nervous system, stress, those kinds of things, not eating enough, you're actually innocently setting yourself up for more fatigue, which sets you up for increased appetite levels and trouble feeling full. So that in itself is a huge trigger that I see a lot of my clients dealing with. And if you don't know that's a trigger, how are you supposed to deal with it properly? Right? So fatigue is an example of a physical emotional eating trigger. All hormone imbalances can trigger emotional and binge eating because of the way they impact your appetite, but amplify cravings. So high cortisol gives you more sugar, salt, and refined carbohydrate cravings. Serious thyroid issues can give you heavy salt cravings. Progesterone, which is one of the female sex hormones, if that's low, you will have a higher likelihood for sugar cravings, because again, like you were saying earlier, we chase food in anticipation of reward, and we start thinking about eating the food and we go and take the first few bites. We get a huge dopamine high, and dopamine is one of your mood boosting neurotransmitters, the reward pleasure neurotransmitter. Most women that I work with actually are deficient in dopamine and serotonin, which is your mood stabilizing neurotransmitter, when we first start working together. And if you don't know these things, I didn't know these things, like we're not taught this stuff. Like, how are you possibly going to just wake up one day and be like, well, I'm going to go get my dopamine and serotonin tested. I think I have high cortisol, and, I've got these inner child wounds that we're not waking up thinking about that. It's like, oh my God, I need to lose weight. Nothing in my closet fits. All the negative narrative. Like, that's the cycle so many women and men are in different ways. And so dismantling and understanding your triggers is a huge part in your healing and fully breaking free of these behaviors, because it allows you to understand why you're going to food, why your body is wired right now to make it easier to want to seek reward from food or numb or check out or whatever the reasons are for using it. And that is incredibly powerful because the perception shift I like to encourage with my clients is your triggers are teachers. They're trying to show you where you're out of alignment or where there's a lesson to learn or something for you to heal. Weight loss blocks are no different. Weight loss blocks are teachers. They are trying to show you where you're out of alignment or why your body doesn't feel safe to release protection. So if we can shift the perception and actually start to get curious about why I'm triggered to emotionally eat, why my body won't let go of protection, then I can actually, instead of needing to have control with food with a diet or needing to try and control my weight and over exercise and eat less to lose weight, which just stresses the body out, I can actually go on a healing journey and heal versus keep quick fixing and numbing it and distracting myself from what's really going on. So healing those triggers is what allows women to break free along with building the worth. And in the interim of that, some examples of other things we're working on: healing diet mentalities, stopping quick fixes. Let's stop using calorie apps. Let's stop calorie counting. No more weighing and measuring food. Because as you heal, this is the biggest part. You learn to trust your body. You become connected with her and you learn how to listen to her. And as you build trust, you realize, well, if I'm eating mindfully and I'm treating my body well, I'm not going to gain weight. I don't need to count calories. Yeah. Make sure you don't eat enough fat or too much fat. Like that's the one thing. I had one client before I started working there. She's like, my breakfast is like 800 calories and 100 grams of fat. And I'm like, I can kind of see why you're not able to lose weight because you are over consuming. So there's, okay, let's tweak that, this much instead. But other than that, you become attuned. And as you heal, you trust your body. And therefore you no longer need to grip out of fear to these quick fixes that don't work. And now we're in this unfortunate Ozempic GLP-1 craze, which is a nightmare.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So those are some of the first things that we work on. And then we do the hormones and the gut and the blood sugar and make sure we're supporting those physical symptoms as well. And as that happens, I see most women within a year to 18 months fully eradicating these behaviors, and that self-worth maybe around the 2.5 year mark, fully clicking. Some it's sooner, but that's usually the average that I see women fully healing this. And I'm working with women that have been dealing with this for years or decades. So it's been a long time for them.
You talk about the comfort piece, right? So when people are need to make a big change like this, awareness is a huge piece. So if we go back to that moment that you talked about being out, at the dumpster, this awareness, this real kind of truth telling yourself, okay, I have a problem. So that's awareness. But with that discomfort that comes after that, because awareness needs to lead into some type of action for change, because even though we're aware of a problem, there's the comfort in knowing that the problem is very predictable and certain. So even though I'm aware, I can still choose to continue to have that problem because there is this sense of safety. Even though I know it's harming me, the harm is known, right? And even though we intellectually know that a change will be positive for our lives, that change, because it's new action, there's no previous history that we have with that type of behavior, the person that will become, the brain processes it as a threat. So now all of a sudden we have this massive gap that creates that discomfort. So when you're in that moment, you have this awareness, you're starting to feel probably a lot of discomfort and new actions that you're going to have to take. What was that first thing that really helped anchor that action for you, right? Because we're talking about a lot of stuff, but what was that one thing for someone who's listening now who has that awareness of saying, yeah, I think I might have, a problem. Maybe it's not defined as a problem, but I have maybe a unhealthy relationship with food. What would be the one thing that you did right after that someone listening could do as well?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I did was I think just really admitting it was the first thing I need to do for myself to be really authentic with myself. And then I had to get an acceptance that I was going to have to get uncomfortable to deal with it, but that I could go kind of like be a little bit uncomfortable and then kind of like find some more like safe, comfortable ground that wasn't so self-sabotaging. So the first two things I did First thing, because I was so addicted to sugar, I started learning about sugar. And it blew my mind to realize that sugar was created to be addictive on purpose and that it's 10 times more addictive than cocaine. I was like, oh my gosh, it's not just me. I'm not crazy. Like the food industry has done this on purpose. And when I started educating myself, it felt very empowering and helped with some of the discomfort. The second thing that I was terrified of doing was feeling my emotions. So it was like baby stepping into, okay, I'm feeling fear. I want to just go to food. No, I'm trying to not do that. What do I want to do instead? Well, maybe I should just try feeling my emotions and seeing what happens. And so, what I started to remind myself of in the moment was, yeah, this is uncomfortable, but I'm safe. There's no actual threat like a bear in my room. It's uncomfortable, but I'm safe and the discomfort will pass. And so I think starting to remind myself that the discomfort was temporary also helped make it a little more, digestible to work through. And the first time I felt him like just 30 seconds, I put a timer on for 30 seconds. I opened my eyes and I'm like, oh, nothing bad happened. Wow, like I can do this. And so I think it was those little micro moments where I gave just a small amount of time to try something different that was uncomfortable, helped me see I could do it, which built a little more confidence and helped that uncomfortable thing become a little more comfortable.
Yeah.
At what point did you start talking to others about it? Right? Because I also think that's a huge part of the journey.
I was going to say, because my journey was, I was so alone in it. Nobody knew. We were married. He didn't know. It was such a lonely place, but it was like a safe place. When I finally figured out, okay, this is a problem, because, you start, it's like, okay, you do it once, do it twice, but now you're doing it, 2-3 times a day and you're out. Like it became such a burden on me to figure out where I'm going to purge, like all the things that come with. There was a lot of shame around it. So yes, I needed to acknowledge my truth to myself. This is a problem, but also then admitting it to somebody else, which wasn't you. It was, a psychologist. Like I reached out and saying, okay, and I want to put like a star on this. Sharing with somebody you don't know is so freeing. For the first time, I felt so free of this burden that I've shared with somebody that didn't know me. And that was the beginning of my journey. Because a lot of people feel like, oh, well, if I tell a parent, or they'll just say they don't believe me. Like you have all these stories that you create.
Fear of judgment.
Fear of judgment. So for me, the biggest step I took, what changed my life in helping myself with the addiction, is actually sharing with like a professional that didn't judge and then allowed me to be like, okay, I can sit with it. I saw the reaction. They didn't judge me. It was a problem. And then once I started my journey is when I first shared with you, right? So yeah, you don't have to do it alone. A lot of people, like I felt like I needed to do it and fix myself all by myself. But I feel like in the sharing is where the power lies too. Because now you're like, okay, I'm not in it alone. There are others that are in the same boat and we can do this together.
Yeah, because I think it's also about creating that scaffolding, that structure, that support system around you. Because when you're dealing with it on your own, I think, yeah, it is like, it's a lonely place. There is an aspect, like you mentioned, Amber, about being authentic, being honest with yourself, but then keeping it to yourself. Is that authentic? I don't think so, right? Because you're still kind of moving and kind of living a lie, right? When you're just keeping it to yourself. So that's why, it took a while for you to start opening up, so that, again, there's that awareness. You were trying to do things, but sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but that was a pivotal point for you, finding somebody to share with. And so when was that point for you, Amber?
It's so funny. Thank you for sharing your experience. I had a completely opposite experience. So before I started to deal with it myself, I mustered up the money to see a psychologist. I went and poured my heart out, and she essentially looked at me and said, well, just don't go to the store and buy the food. just love yourself. And I felt incredibly judged. And I felt completely like she has no idea what I'm dealing with. I was like, have you ever been through this? Well, no, but I have the degree on my wall. And I said, well, shouldn't you have a little more empathy for your patients? And I left that appointment absolutely feeling judged, absolutely feeling like triggered. I went and binged, which I know was on me, but I actually kept my journey to myself until I started my business. And that was a personal choice. I didn't feel alone because I felt in healing my relationship with myself and food that I actually learned how to have my own back. And that was really important for me. So once I started my business, I literally like wrote my story out. It was like 20 pages, faxed it to my parents, faxed it to my family, like sent it to everyone. Cause I'm like, now that it's on my website, like everyone needs to know. And no one had any idea. Everyone was shocked. People were like, why didn't you tell us? And I'm like, honestly, I wasn't sure you would understand. And the last thing that I needed in my healing journey was for people to just tell me to have willpower or to just eat normally. And it was a personal choice. I don't encourage other people to do that. I do think finding the right person who will hold a safe space, who will be in a non-judgmental, be very empathetic is incredibly important. And I think it's important if you're in a really vulnerable place that you spend some time tuning into who you think that person could be, because the worst thing is to be in a vulnerable space and to finally muster up the courage to open up and to essentially be like shut down or judged, whether it's by a psychologist or by a family member or a friend. I have a new client and she's like, my husband just keeps telling me just eat normally. She's been bulimic for 15 years. And to have your husband tell you, assume you should just be able to eat normally, like she doesn't want to open up to him about it right now because she doesn't feel safe doing so, right? So I think there's like a way to do it and really tuning into who is a person who is going to give me some safe space and some empathy.
Yeah.
Right?
I think an important message there is like finding the right person, which means not giving up.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Because, I mean, I have, a therapist that I see. I mean, I think everyone, whether you're having issues or not, right? Having a therapist is great. But I interviewed a few.
Yes.
Right? Like I had appointments with a few and met them and did sessions and was just like, some of them I didn't resonate with. The one that I have now, I really, really resonate with her. Right. And so it's great. And,
and my
when you say that, I was going to say the one that you originally saw, she resonated with you because she had an eating disorder, or like an issue with food in the past, right? Like
the first one, the one that I'm seeing now, I told her about it because I was like, I'm starting to feel like I'm struggling with constantly thinking about the food after my dad's passing. And a good therapist will say, listen, this is outside of my wheelhouse. I would recommend you see somebody who is specializing in eating disorders. And that's a good therapist. So I then didn't continue with her in that space. I started looking for somebody else. For me, breath work really, really helps. When I feel my trigger, I recognize when something happens, that feeling within my body, and then I get up and the first thing I go to is to the fridge. And I'm like, why am I eating this? Like sometimes you're like, why am I doing this? What's that anxious? It's like an anxious feeling or even an excited feeling because it's the same manifesting. So we're scoring a big contract and whatever. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm running to the kitchen and I'm like, I'm going to cook something, I'm just, no, I got to stop. And breath work has really helped me to tune into my body and say, okay, do I actually need to eat? Or is this just my trigger and my, button to be like, I'm running to the fridge. I'm going to get some chips. I'm going to do, all that kind of stuff. So I've learned over the years, and I've been given tools because I was seeing someone to recognize that feeling, where it's coming. And then you sit with it. Okay, why? Why? Well, because, big contract means responsibility, means there's so much uncertainty, pressure to perform, to do like all that stuff. I'm like, there it is, feeling good enough. That imposter syndrome is like, holy man, who am I to do this, right? That anxiousness comes in and you're like, psst, let's go to the fridge. Let's go to
Yeah.
whatever, right? So I am aware, but it did take a while for me to be in tune with my body. And like you were saying, right? It does take, it's not a quick fix. It's not just about looking a certain way.
No, and you bring up such a good point when you're talking about you'd get those feelings and you'd end up in the fridge. And I think something really important for everyone to understand is that one of the reasons that it takes time to shift this is because you've literally wired neural pathways in your brain, like physical pathways, to where, oh, I signed this contract. I associate that with celebration and food or the discomfort of like, the pressure and the self-worth and all of that. And that's literally the brain lighting up like, oh, this is what you do when you feel this way or when these kinds of events happen or when you're hanging out with certain people. You behave this way. And so those neural pathways don't just dissolve overnight, or those habits, whatever you want to call them. It was like me, one of my biggest triggers I had to heal was putting the TV on and then not eating, because I would always binge and watch TV. And when I stopped binging and I would turn the TV on, all of a sudden it would be like, want to eat everything all of a sudden. And I started learning about the brain and these neural pathways. And it was like, oh, you have to actually interrupt them and revert to something else to dissolve them and build new ones. And so this is one of the pieces to, like, again, give yourself compassion and empathy, because if you're not taught that, that's why it can also be easy to keep reverting back to food in certain environments, or like I said, certain things happening with certain emotions, because those pathways light up. It's no different than building a pathway to shower in the morning, or you do food prep on Sundays, or whatever those look like they just become so ingrained. And so having that awareness of, oh, this is my old way of reverting. Okay, yeah, this trigger's coming up. What kind of new pathway do I want to build instead? And that really helps us long term dissolve those, because it's literally like in the brain. So that's why, like, you can't, why you don't just heal binge eating in a week.
Yeah, it's not just a decision.
Yeah.
No.
And
Yeah.
decided, and so it shall be.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who decide and it shall be, but those are the extremists that will go and then binge workout. So
Yeah,
they
that's not healthy
take-
either.
Right. So they'll take one addiction and substitute it with another addiction, which is still that addiction piece, and you're still not healing. It's such a complicated topic and just process. So I want to talk about, because it's such a delicate topic, and it's not just simply, oh, I'm gonna eat some protein, work out to lose weight, because there are deep traumas sometimes and we don't understand. There's so many people out there right now that went on Ozempic, that did the body sculpting, and they're trying to coach people who have really deep rooted problems how to stop the processes. Ozempic is one of them. You know, they'll go and they'll do Ozempic and then tell you, oh, I just upped my protein and worked out. Like, the whole protein craze is ridiculous for me. Like, I get it, we need to eat protein, but again, it's like women are being targeted. We have hormonal issues. We have traumas. It's not just simple, oh, eat more protein. Like, life is happening. We have kids. We have things. Like, it's not just uppity up, you know, and a lot of these women, anyways, what are your, let's not sugarcoat it. You know, you have to also be very careful of who you're looking to. Like,
Yeah.
what is their level of expertise for them to coach you on how to lose the weight by just letting go of all your issues? Like, it is so unsafe to do that coming from somebody who had a problem for 15 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that simple. You are walking a fine line. And then I know you have an opinion on Ozempic.
Yes.
So tell us, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a huge trend, and I don't think it's super healthy. Like, my dad went on Ozempic, but he was obese. He had sugar issues. Like, he was, you know, diabetic. So that was to manage that. And in the process, he started losing a little bit of weight. But now women are going on and just pumping themselves.
Well, it is a blood sugar medication, so that's what it's supposed to be used for. But obviously, keyword trend. Anytime you hear the word trend, to me, it's big red flag. And Ozempic is incredibly dangerous, in my opinion, when it's being used for weight loss, being used to shut off the food noise. It's incredibly concerning because it is for blood sugar, type 2 diabetics. But the problem is as soon as big pharma and all their celebrities and puppets get on the bandwagon and start promoting it, um, people who are, and I mean this in a loving way, I used to be one of them, but people who are insecure in their bodies and feel very unloved and have a lot of self-hatred, you get into this state of desperation. You're easy to control, manipulate. And so when you're desperate to lose the weight because you are convinced that that's finally going to fix everything and make you happy and make you feel worthy, and you've tried all the diets and nothing is working, you are far more easy to convince that Ozempic or one of these GLP-1s would be a good choice for you, because a lot of people around you are probably doing it and getting temporary weight loss results. Your doctor, unless you have a really good, like, authentic doctor, is going to be like, yeah, that's probably the first thing they're going to suggest, because they're making a big commission off of it. It's a big money grab. But what we really have to start asking ourselves is, do I want to keep chasing quick fixes that are going to keep me disconnected and distracted from doing my deeper work? Because Ozempic is not going to help you love yourself. It's not going to help you understand what's triggering you to go to food or purge. It's not going to help you identify your hormone issues. It's not going to help you heal your diet mentality. It will not help you deal with your traumas. Maybe it shuts off your appetite and the food noise while you're on it, but that's a concern because we're not supposed to be shutting things off in the body. I will say it time and time again, you cannot mess with nature. And we, right, are not robots. We are nature. And so it's no different than women who have been put on the birth control pill because they have cramps or acne. It shuts off a natural part of our cycle and innate being to be a woman the way we're supposed to be. And there's many other ways to address things like that other than a pill. So it's the same with Ozempic and GLP-1s. We're not supposed to not feel hungry. We're not supposed to feel nothing. Some of the biggest concerning side effects I'm seeing with Ozempic are permanent bone and muscle loss. Some women are losing weight and men and can't stop. A man just died. He couldn't lose or couldn't stop losing weight. He died. He became so thin. 1,500 people in the United States just filed a lawsuit because they lost their eyesight permanently. Women are becoming suicidal because it shuts everything off, including your neurotransmitters. You don't feel anymore. Suicide and depression are increasing. Anxiety, you're malnourished, you're starving yourself because it's shutting off your ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone. It's also skewing your hormones. Thyroid issues, high cortisol, all these hormone issues are getting bigger. Deficiencies with iron, B12, vitamin D, your vitamins and minerals because you're not eating enough.
Yeah.
Is it worth it to have this quick weight loss? Is it really worth it? Because what I want women and men to start asking themselves is, what are the long-term effects of this in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years? Am I going to be around in 10 years if I keep doing this to myself? Because it's very dangerous. And if you are told, oh, well, once you lose the weight, then you can go on a maintenance dose for the rest of your life, like another huge red flag. It just is all proof that it is not addressing the roots. And the problem is when women are coming off of this, if they've been using it for a binge eating or emotional eating or weight loss, guess what? What gets suppressed explodes after. So now they have significant increases in ghrelin. They're so hungry, so they are getting triggered to binge and overeat. The hormone issues, the nervous system dysregulation, all the things that have been suppressed and thrown off are now amplified. And so that fuels the mood issues, the desire to go to food more easily, the hormone issues, weight comes back on even easier because you've suppressed your metabolism. Whenever you put yourself into starvation, women, you're suppressing your metabolism in as little as 4 days. You're inhibiting your thyroid function. And that only is going to boomerang in the direction we don't want it to go.
Yeah.
So these are some of the many reasons why I do not suggest it, because it's another Band-Aid and you're avoiding doing what is needed inwardly. And what we need to normalize, and why I love what you guys are up to, is because we've got to normalize getting uncomfortable, addressing the roots, doing root cause healing. And I know that doesn't make big pharma money, and we have to become sovereign and like bankrupt those guys, because this is where the healing occurs. And every time we keep quick fixing, we keep this bigger distance between us and what we actually want to achieve. And we can do it naturally because I see it all the time. Right. So that's my thoughts on Ozempic and all that stuff.
Well, that's great. And I think people need to also think about the fact that if you are struggling with something with like food, right? There's a good chance that that continues to be a struggle, not just because of the relationship with it, but that avoidance in wanting to deal with it, the avoidance of wanting to feel uncomfortable and discomfort, which will spill over into other parts of your life.
Yeah.
So if you're struggling with weight loss or relationship with food, there's a good chance that there's other things in your life that are also not perfect that you would love to have changed. So if you want to just deal with the weight and you're thinking about taking a pill, right, you're not addressing the root cause, where if you actually address the root cause, not only are you going to address that food thing and your weight thing, you'll probably also start addressing a whole lot of other parts of your life. Right? And so it's not just scaling that part, it's about scaling all parts of your life.
Yeah.
100%.
And you're taking, ownership and just control over your life without giving up that control to somebody telling you, no, here's a pill, here's a jab, here's this, here's that, right?
Because then you're still relying on the external.
That's right.
Right? To address your internal.
Yeah.
And the only way that you can truly make that change is address the internal so that you can start changing the external in your life, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And you're so right about, the weight and the food are really like the key holders to really starting to see the other things. Like women have either left their marriages or saved their marriages because they've healed their relationship with food. They realized they were too insecure to speak up and actually express what they need. They were afraid to set boundaries with their family members. They're chronic people pleasers, perfection, proving, right? And they're in burnout because they're last on their list, because they're having to give to everyone else because that's what their family taught them, and it's frowned upon to put yourself first. And so you're right, like it opens up all these other doors, and it is crucial to be willing to not quick fix and suppress everything to be able to heal those things, because otherwise it keeps having that ripple effect on everything, your finances, your relationships, your career, like everything.
Yeah. Well,
On that note. Yeah.
wanted to say where can people find you?
Yeah, so my website is amberapproved.ca. If you're wondering if you're struggling with emotional eating, you can take the free quiz. The podcast is the No Sugarcoating Podcast, which you can find on all podcast apps as well as the website. And if you want to connect to talk about going on the journey, I offer a 30-minute consultation. It's complimentary, and I can connect with anyone in the world, and we can talk about your relationship with food, the weight, the hormones, whatever's going on for you, and just talk about why a different approach may be exactly what you need. And then I'm on Instagram, and it's my name, Amber Romaniuk, Romaniuk.
Okay. Awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing your story as well, very vulnerably. And just word of caution for everybody: do your research, do your due diligence, connect with those who are there for your best interest, not just a quick money grab. Oh, this is a trend now, I can help so and so, from somebody who had to go through that journey and still is on that journey, making sure that you're not alone, and that there are people you can connect with that can really truly help impact your journey.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge you both for sharing, because somebody listening to this will suddenly not feel alone, right? That they don't know what to do and they're trying to figure this out on themselves, and they're lost. Just hearing both of your stories, right? They're going to feel, okay, this is something I can overcome, right?
Yeah.
And I can heal, I can get better. So thank you to you both.
Thank you. Okay, till next.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained valuable insights to elevate your life and business.
If you found value in our conversation, spread the love. Share this episode with family and friends, and let's grow this supportive community together.
And don't forget to like and follow us so we can reach more amazing people just like you.
Until next time, remember, let's not sugarcoat it. Keep it real, raw, and unfiltered.